And
Hey everybody, my name is John Hinman and I'm a member of CHOW, Culinary, Hospitality, Outreach and Wellness. What does it mean to be a member of CHOW? To me, it's being a member of a community in the hospitality industry where we talk about what's going on with ourselves, share our common experiences, share our strengths and our hopes and our pains, and get them out there on the table to help us live and feel a little bit better. Thank you all for having me tonight, and been thinking about how to go with this because I've told my story in so many ways. So, I'm originally from upstate New York. I grew up in a town called Rome, New York. I moved to Denver in 1992. And I started in the restaurant industry about 1995 or 1996. I was trying to figure that out. I got into the restaurant industry because it was a easy job while I was in college. And I'll get to that part of the story a little bit later, but that's just kind of how I wound up here, and what this industry has enabled me to do over time. So like I said, I'm from upstate New York. Growing up, I kind of had a hard time. I grew up in a town that was football, basketball, baseball, sports team driven, and I was into art. I like to ride my bike. I like to water ski. I like to snow ski. And that was one of the ways I kind of didn't really fit in so much. And there was some other outside issues that also caused that. So in that time of growing up there and not fitting in, I was transferred to different schools. I was held back a year. For some reason, I didn't wind up in the schools that a lot of my friends that I hung out with in the summer went to. And I wound up in boarding school in New Hampshire in my junior year. So and not being able to fit in, I wanted to be noticed in a strange way. So I would have these long vacations from like the month of March off. I would have the summer off. I would have off from Thanksgiving to Christmas, and I would go home and raise hell, like literally raise hell. I had a car. I would load it up with all my buddies that would sneak out. We would buy cases of beer. We would drive over I shouldn't even say because I'll probably go to jail, but we would be out all night long, driving around, running over shit, causing trouble. I rolled a car down into a ditch with 8 of my friends in it at one point. I was trouble. And I figured out too, and then in my alter ego life up in boarding school, I was accepted a little bit more, but I drank a lot. And I figured out in my scheming brain, the first time I tried to sneak beer into the car with my dad. That was just a funny trip because I got caught with beer in the car on the way to boarding school. And then he asked me what the fuck I wanted to do with my life. And I said, I wanted to be a race car driver. And he slammed the brakes and we both almost went through the windshield of the car. He's like, well, why the hell am I driving into this school anyways? But off I went. So I got a little bit craftier. And when I would come home on vacations, I had a fake ID. So I would get a bunch of liquor, box it up, and mail it to myself. So when I got there, it was all there. And then I kind of I've always been entrepreneurial, so I kind of did become the campus beer dealer. And so I would go to the liquor store, I'd get a car, I'd go to the liquor store, I'd load up, and then I'd go around campus and sell beers for $3 a piece. And that got me some fun weekends in Boston and stuff. So, the drinking just progressed for me. And it never went away. And I moved out here to Denver in 1992. I went to the University of Denver. And I was an art student. I was studying fine arts and arts history with an emphasis in ceramics. And ceramics is something I don't do anymore, but it's something, it's probably one of my first 5 thoughts every morning. So I would love to get back to that at some point. And so I came out here, and for the first time, I was always like a BC student. And for the first time, I got all A's. It was bizarre. And I almost joined a fraternity and had a sobering moment when they were putting the pin on me, and I chimed out of there. So that was my kind of first check of being different out here. And then time passes on. And how did I get into the restaurant? I got to move up to that part of the story. So in 95 or 96, when I was in college, I got a job at Pasta J's downtown, and I was a server for about a week. I had managed, I was serving a table, and I had 12 of those really big iced teas on a tray, and I dumped them on one guy. And I found myself in the kitchen that night peeling garlic in the back. And that is a big, huge pivotal point in my life, dumping those 12 iced teas, because if it wasn't for those 12 iced teas, I would never be in the restaurant business. I would have never found the back of the kitchen, none of that. I didn't grow up in a house of a lot of cooking. I grew up in a community of cooking. We grew up with all Italians, and a whole town full of Italians and Polish people, and food was just amazing. You could go anywhere, and I miss the Christmas cookies, and there's so much good food in Rome. And so I wound up in the kitchen, and then watching how that thing operated. The beer taps were right across the line from where we were cooking, and I was like, I'm going to get good at this, because I can do whatever I want, pretty much, because we drank all night, and then we went out all night, and we did what we wanted. And that progressed over several years. 1997, Vesta opened, and I talked my way into that job, and that became the base of operations for almost my whole life. It seemed like for a while, for a good 4 years. We built that restaurant. We became the top 10 restaurants in the first year that we were open. There was 3 of us, and we all had a different skill set in the kitchen. Back in those days, there wasn't really any culinary school going on. So we kind of would call like Sean Kelly, who was a chef, little 10 years older than us, at his restaurant, because we didn't know how to make a beurre blanc, and he would tell us over the phone how to do it, and we would figure it out. You know, that's how we kind of learned to cook. We did a lot of reading. We tried different things. We went overboard too much. But those were 16-hour days, and you know, I could sleep standing up in the dish pit. And then I would wash my clothes in the dishwasher at night, take a shower in the dishwasher, pretty much hose myself off, and then change my clothes. We'd go out all night, and then my clothes would be dry back at Vesta the next day, hanging over the grill, and we'd just go back to work. And it was just this progression. But all that partying, it got crazy. I drove my car into the Wash Park Lake. I got arrested. I grew up in a town where I really didn't have any consequences. So that really helped my drinking. And coming out here, I remember I was up a tree with the cops chasing me. And, you know, I had the balls to say, do you know who I am? And next thing you know, my head was bouncing off the hood of the police car. And the cop was like, we don't give a fuck who you are. You know, you're going to jail. But I was thinking about this today, like what are the consequences for me? You can't change me no matter what, you know. You can give me a reward and I'll change while you're watching, but you can put me, you can take things away from me and I'll just sit. I mean, I'm a guy that, you know, I had to do 90 days in the Broomfield jail up here 10 years ago, and I can make that work. You know, I can make that happen. You know, not the fact of getting to jail, but I can live like that. And that's not how I wanted to be. You know, you can offer me money, you can tell me to stop, you can give me a reward, you can offer me a brand new car, and if you're not watching me, I'm off to California in a minute, you know, me in the car, gone. The only thing that I can do to change is I have to recognize within me the things that I find objectionable within myself, within my heart. And then I can observe them and be able to rid myself of them, but I can't do it unless I find them objectionable, you know, or if Bill were to say to me, hey, John, you shouldn't say homeless anymore. And I would have to find that objectionable, and then I can let it go. But until then, there isn't anybody out there that can change me on that. So time progresses, we get to about 2000. I was living with my brother, and I convinced my whole family, we weren't getting along so great living together, and I convinced my whole family that Dan had the drinking problem. So I had an intervention all set up. I was just going to move his ass out, you know, for at least a month, and then maybe that was the scheme. And what had happened was I had all the paperwork and everything ready, and I went out one night and I came home, and I woke up the next morning and I look at my desk and I see all the intake paperwork is all jacked up from my brother. And so I called him and I said, hey, do you have a Dan coming anytime soon? And they're like, no, but we have a John. He'll be here March 24th. And I was like, shit. I checked myself into rehab and a blackout. So I figured that was time to stop. So off to treatment I went. 30 days there, and I got out, and my life changed because I was doing what I was supposed to do, and things got really good, and I was able to buy a house. I got a new car. I opened a gelato business. I was on the neighborhood boards. I was doing all sorts of good stuff, and then one day at a neighborhood meeting, life got really good, and I stopped paying attention to being sober as much. It wasn't a big thing. And then at one of these neighborhood meetings, where it was at like a bar, restaurant, grill, just a normal restaurant, I just ordered a beer. And I remember having a thought, like, if this gets really bad, I know where I can go to get help. Well, 5 years later, I am 37 years old and virtually homeless and have to land on mom's couch. You know, I can't make my life. Anything I do, I cannot make my happiness. I cannot make my life. I cannot make my plans. I try and I try and I try, and I just run into brick walls. A friend of mine tells me that brick walls, God speaks in brick walls, you know, and so I get to walk up to one, and I don't get to go any further. I can choose to go left or right, but lots of times I keep banging my head. And man, this time I had to go back out and really lose everything. I mean, literally on mom's couch, homeless. She was coming to pick me up at an ex-girlfriend's house who drank like me. I was getting kicked out by her mother. And when I got in the car with my mom, well, I was on the phone with my aunt who was sober, scared and crying. And I said, you know, if I had a gun, I would kill myself right now. And then that freaked me out, totally freaked me out. And I hung up the phone and I called my mom, who was on the way to pick me up. And I had done a really good job over the 5 years of, if I knew I was going to see my mom on Friday, I would do my best to stop drinking on Wednesday. You know, so I held up a good mask for 5 years. She had no idea. And I called her and I said, hey, you're not taking me back to your house. You're going to take me to Boulder Detox. And I walked in there and I blew a .46, walking and talking, walking dead. And that started to me. That was 10 years ago last week. And the process starts over. You know, I wind up going back to the same treatment center, and oddly enough, I got the same chores, the same bed, the same stupid surrender flag I had to walk around with the first time. Everything's been the same this time again. When I got out, I got the same shitty $200 Honda Civic. I started my business at about the same time. I'm buying a house at about the same, oh, not at the same time, but everything is different except for me today. Man, this Denver community has looked out for me like nobody's business. I'm just thinking of all the things. So I come back and I'm like, I am not working in the restaurant business again. So that first year of sobriety, I had about 9 jobs, and of which I fit in 0. You know, I can't sit at a desk. I can't sit still. I have to be doing something. So I wound up going back to working for the Big Red F, and Dave Query always has a home for me, no matter what situation it is. And I'm very grateful to him for that. And I became the pastry chef again for a couple of his restaurants, along with another former pastry chef with a company who actually left at the same time I had years prior. And then we both found each other across the table from each other with our own tragic stories of what had happened to us over the last 5 years. It's crazy. So we got to grow together a little bit, and we went off and opened a bakery in North Boulder. And I wound up making pies down at the Post. And God, I lasted 1.5 years. I made them really famous for pie, but that kitchen environment was just killing me. And it came to head one day, and I got in a fight with like a 6'5" Hispanic dude, you know, and I wasn't having it anymore. And I walked out. And that was really hard, because at that time I was really staying to the steps and doing the work, and on the phone with the sponsor at that time a lot. And he literally walked me out of there, because I kind of wanted to walk out of there with some dignity. And he was like, how much of this shit are you going to take? And I packed up my stuff and I got in my car. I called him again and I was like, okay, I'm in the car. He's like, John, start the car. My net worth is probably $300, and I'm quitting. I'm walking out on the job. So I start the car, I drive home, totally freaked out because I did this. And check the mail, and the IRS check shows up, and I got this nice refund that I could live off of for a couple of months. And I thought about it, and a friend of mine helped me write a business plan. I'm like, I'm just going to go down to Denver and be the pie Nazi and have a little shack, which I'm finally kind of getting at, I think now. You know, open the door, throw the pie out, give me your money, see you later. That's all I wanted to do. But no, I don't do anything small. I managed to raise enough money, and I bought an 11,000 square foot bakery over here that had baked bread. I don't know anything about bread. I know about pastries, but I don't know about bread. But coming off a 5x3 table to an 11,000 square foot bakery with 25 employees, hey, it should be easy, right? We just bake the bread, we pack the bread, we get it out. I've been doing this for 20 years in some form or other. No. There's QuickBooks, there's the IRS, there's taxes, there's licenses, there are sales, there are deliveries, there is so much that I have had to learn. And a couple of years in, making my return and buying this bakery got me some notoriety, and I was getting a lot of interviews about coming back to this industry and being sober. At this point, I think I have maybe 5 years. No, I don't know. And so I get a call from Alex at 303 Magazine, and she wants to talk about it. And I've done enough interviews that I'm like, I don't need another attaboy. It's time to, let's do something. A bunch of people helped me and saved my life. I see a lot of the same characteristics in me in my restaurant community. So what can we do to change that? And so I told Alex, hey, I will tell you whatever you want to know, but I want to have a meeting 30 days after the article comes out to see if anybody's interested in coming to talk about what's going on with themselves. You know, where's this pain coming from? Why are there so many pirates and misfits in the restaurant industry? You know, they're my group, and I can talk to them, and I know that they feel the same way. But we're very introverted people. You know, we put out our soul on that plate, and that's what you get. We don't really like to talk about it. We like to be wise ass to each other. We don't like to play adults. Like this morning, I woke up and I had this great plan. And I was like, then the phone rang and I was like, shit, I got to be an adult. You know, that's this morning, you know? And so we set up the date for the meeting, and I really genuinely wanted to do something for the community, but the selfish part of me is like, well, you know, nobody's going to want to talk about this. So I can just pat myself on the back, say I tried, continue on my merry way with life. Well, the universe had a different idea of that. And 2 days before the first CHOW meeting, I was expecting crickets. Anthony Bourdain passes away. And there's 40 people on a Monday night in my bakery, wondering what the hell's going on and wanting answers, of which I didn't have. So I just said, hey, let's go around the room, say your name, and say one good thing that you've done for yourself this week. And we'll let it go at that. Well, by the third person, that blew up, and everybody started sharing their story as it went around the room. And there was this woman sitting next to me, and she was just knitting ferociously. And I know from some meetings I went to in up north in another program, there's a bunch of knitters up there, and they knit, and then they put their stuff down and say something super profound, and then get back to knitting again. So I'm kind of focusing on this woman next to me because I want to know what she's going to say, and of course she's going to be the last one. And people shared their stories, and as they went around, I was writing down all our commonalities, and I didn't hear any stories worse or better than mine, but I heard the same common element, is that we hurt, you know. And it comes to what my friend taught me about hurt, and where do we hurt, you know. And the best example I have for that is, like, you know, you break your arm, and you identify that you've broken your arm, you go to the hospital, they bandage it up, you watch it heal, and a year later you forgot you broke your arm, you know. But it's done. But where does this other pain that I'm having come from? Where is this pain that I don't fit in? Where is this pain that I can't speak up for myself without really crying? Where is this I'm not good enough coming from, you know? And how do I fix that? Well, that pain comes from right here in my heart, you know, it's my soul. And how do you fix what you can't see, right? And what did it for me was talking about it, you know, going to other meetings and hearing people tell their truth so easily, and how I felt changed when I came out of that room. Because I'd never been in a room where everybody was so honest. You know, I can't believe they're actually talking about that stuff. And that guy, like, burned down his house over there with da-da-da-da-da. Well, I haven't done anything that bad, you know, so this shouldn't, and he's okay, you know, he's 15 years sober, then I should be able to do this, you know. And so that's what really changed. So I wanted to open the discussion in the restaurant community. So back to the meeting and the knitter, we get around and I write all the commonalities. People have talked about suicide. I think the number of, you know, Melinda knows all the stats, but I think it's about 7,000 chefs a year die of suicide. You know, that's crazy. For what? Serving dinner? Over serving dinner when it gets down to it. And she put her knitting down and she stood up and she told her plan to kill herself after the meeting. She said, if this meeting's not good, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And that's what it's going to be. And it went off in my soul that, okay, this isn't a thing that we get together once a month for and check in. CHOW's going to have to be a weekly deal. So that's it. That's how CHOW started. Next Monday after that, it was, hey, come to the bakery on Monday at 5, we're having a meeting. And it's just been consistent like that for the last, I don't know, is it 2 or 3 years now? You know, and then 3 months after doing this little meeting, showing up on a Monday, I'm in the Wall Street Journal in print. I mean, who does that? You know, I didn't reach out for that. That was a call that came to me, and it was in print with my picture in it. You know, I used to think that I was going to be, for a minute there in high school, I thought I was going to be a stockbroker. That's how I should show up in the Wall Street Journal, right? Not for showing up at 5 o'clock on a Monday, because that's what I was essentially doing. So I hurt, you know, on the regular, every day. And it's great that I have 10 years of sobriety, but it's not about that anymore. You know, there's some serious wreckage of my sobriety that I'm cleaning up right now, or I'm embarking on cleaning up. And life goes on, you know. And so when I quit drinking, I ran into John Hinman. Oh, you're the reason you drink. I want to drink more, right? When faced with myself, I can't deal with myself. So that's why I drink. It's not the alcohol, that's the problem. So that this has been you know, a 10-year journey. A lot of people at this point in sobriety think they say that they know it all, or we joke that we should know it all by now, and it's getting really hard because it's kind of true. I think that I know it all, but it's not true. And this last month, so many great turnover things have happened for me. You know, I moved into, I was able to buy a house. This year, 2020, has been the best year of my life. It's been so tragic for so many people, but I was able to unload the bread portion of my business. I was able to shrink it down. I was able to get a new coat of paint on everything, on all my boxes and my logos, and the people that showed up during this, you know. And CHOW, when COVID hit, you know, it went from a 5 o'clock on a Monday 4-person to 12-person meeting to somebody, you know, came and blessed us with, you know, a beautiful grant, and we were able to help contribute to buying 700 one-hour therapy sessions for restaurant workers. We took my bread van at the time and went around to every restaurant. We picked up all the food we could get out of everybody's walk-ins, and we took it back to freezers. Seattle Fish gave us a bunch of fish, and we all teamed up as a community and produced almost 30,000 meals to feed to the out-of-place restaurant workers, you know. And that was the first month of that, and the opportunity that I've had to rebuild this month under the radar has been great. It's set me up for possible success. You know, only I can get in the way of that now. And that's the biggest fear for me today. What's my biggest fear is that I have so much PTSD from what happened with the bread bakery. It's like, I'm afraid on Thanksgiving, I knew it was going to be last Thanksgiving. Okay, last Thanksgiving, it was midnight, and I was in the parking lot the night before on a block of ice crying because they had dumped like 250 pies on the ground at midnight. You know, I was like, it's over. This Thanksgiving, you know, because of that, I'm afraid to push the sell now button, you know, engage the store and say, let's do this. You know, we did almost 2,000 pies this year without a hitch. And so things have changed. I don't know. I sure do love everybody that comes here on the regular, you know. Bill and I have this wonderful long history. I've known him about as long as I've been in this business, and we don't see each other a lot, but we go through the same stuff, and our hearts are aligned, you know. And I love that you can have that kind of relationship. And the other people in Denver, you know, we've been going around for 20 years saying, what's the food of Denver, you know, besides the oysters, Rocky Mountain oysters, right? And I think the food of Denver is our community. That's our strength. You know, the chefs in this town get together and they talk and they share ideas, and overall, we have a really solid community in the city. And that's a great thing to see. I don't know what else to say. So maybe I'll be done, and then I'll go, oh, I meant to say da 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 da. But thank you all for coming tonight. I hope that made some sense. I just went off the cuff, so thanks.